I'm Amita Balachandra. This is the Rural Report where we focus on everything away from the big metros. So we've created a space where we talk about rural stories from across the country. I want to get started on the Rural Report today. I will be picking up something that's been reported widely across different newspapers across the country over the last 1.5 weeks, which is on vaccine hesitancy. Now, there have been a lot of reports from UP, from Bihar, and even Maharashtra, for that matter, on how one of the challenges health workers are facing at this point is that there is massive lack of awareness and that a lot of people are extremely scared of vaccines. Now, a week ago, and this was a report that came in from Uttar Pradesh's Barabanki, a group of locals jumped into the water to evade vaccination. They were basically running away from health workers. In Maharashtra, for instance, there are reports, and this one report is from India Spend, which says the districts like Palghar, Hingoli, Nandurbar, etc., had lowest vaccination coverage as of May 12th. So we're going to get an understanding of what's happening in rural areas, and most importantly, what are the challenges health workers are facing at this point. And to talk about this, I have with me Dr. Abhay Shukla, who is a national co-convener of Jan Swasthya Abhiyan. He's also part of People's Health Movement in Maharashtra. He's based out of Pune, so he gets it. He comes with this understanding of what's really happening in rural districts of Maharashtra. While we talk about Maharashtra, we'll also try and extrapolate it to talk about what's happening in states like UP and Bihar as well. Dr. Shukla, thank you so much for giving us your time and being kind enough to take out some time for this. First of all, if you can tell us, reports say that in districts like Palghar, Hingoli, Nandurbar, Gadchiroli, even for that matter, have lowest vaccination coverage. Why is that the case?
Yeah, so we need to understand it's a combination of supply side gaps and demand side gaps. And actually in Maharashtra, there are 8 districts, which are almost all of them are tribal dominant districts, where the levels of complete vaccination are less than 2.5% as of now. And there are essentially, 2 or 3 major factors which are responsible for this. I'll start with the vaccine hesitancy issue because, it's something which is very widespread across the country and across many parts of Maharashtra, and more serious in rural areas and tribal areas. And for example, you mentioned Palghar. So from Palghar, we have reports, we need to understand that there are 3 points. 1, people are hesitant. 2, the system itself has a deficient vaccine supply. And 3, the bridge between the vaccinator and the vaccinated is an app which has huge efficiency problems and huge accessibility problems. These are basically the 3 factors which are responsible for low levels of vaccination. But coming first to the hesitancy part, in Palghar district, which is basically an Adivasi district, actually relatively close to Mumbai, there, some of our activists went to a primary health center to see where vaccination was going on, and they found that out of 25 people standing in the line for vaccination, 20 were from Mumbai, who had gotten an appointment through the CoWIN app. You see, they drove down from Mumbai to this remote tribal because the vaccine was available there. You see, it was probably not available easily or early at an early date in Mumbai. So they went and got their vaccination. And the tribal people who were at the end of the line, by the time they reached to get the vaccination, the vaccine was over. So, this shows that this current, the CoWIN app itself is actually proving instead of a facilitator, it's a barrier. Many state governments, many doctors, many health workers have pointed this out, that this app itself is, it's actually amplifying inequities rather than overcoming them. So anyway, this is one point. The other point is that the incident from Barabanki you pointed out, similarly, there have been incidences in Ujjain, in Madhya Pradesh, and also not so severe, but there have been such issues in Maharashtra also. The point is, what is going on? We need to understand carefully. Public health systems operate on the basis of trust. Trust is critical. And if you see what has happened in states like UP and MP especially, that trust has broken down. People have seen, their relatives, their close family members, actually dying in public hospitals. There is lack of transparency about what is going on. there is a complete breakdown. Already trust was weak, and in the epidemic situation, this is broken down. And when trust breaks down, then suspicion replaces trust. And when there is suspicion, then that gets exaggerated through rumors and various kinds of misinformation. And that is what is happening actually in many of these states. I would say the situation in Maharashtra is not that extreme, but even here, we are seeing that effective communication. See, trust has to be built through effective, regular communication. And that communication from governments is very weak. It's almost lacking. Whereas WhatsApp messages, Facebook posts have replaced, what should have been a robust public communication system. And there all kinds of rumors are circulating. So people are getting misinformation very strongly and proper scientific information in a much weaker way. So a breakdown of trust in public health services and lack of proper information from a scientific viewpoint, these two factors are contributing, of course, along with the problems of the COVID app itself, which is proving to be quite of a barrier.
But when you talk about trust being the major problem, are you effectively saying that there is lack of trust in government health facilities, and that's why people don't want to believe, and there are these rumors and suspicion and everything that's happening?
Yeah, what I will say is that in states like UP and MP, as far as I have gathered from my colleagues working in these states, that there is a huge trust gap, a huge trust deficit. And there are some factors, recent factors, which have contributed to that. So for example, if a government tells people, if you complain about oxygen deficit, we'll put you in jail. I mean, then this is the opposite of, reaching out to people or supporting people. It's telling people we cannot solve your problem. So therefore, we cannot suppress the problem. So we'll suppress you from reporting about the problem. We'll kill the messenger. So, this kind of these kind of actions and lack of transparency. How many people are actually infected? How many deaths have actually taken place? We have reports showing that the number of deaths are estimated to be much higher than what is being officially reported. As you know, there's been a report from Gujarat, which has shown this. So there's a trust deficit, number one. Number two, in this situation, when people start dying from COVID in hospitals, this leads to a panic kind of situation. And this has to be overcome consciously. It's not going to evaporate on its own. So if you see somebody from a village who has died of COVID in a public hospital, and then somebody from the public health system comes and tells you, I'm going to give you an injection, and you see a WhatsApp message which says, this is a poisonous vaccine, ye zahar ki sui hai, isko hum nahi lagana chahiye. I mean, all these things then click together. So it's not a purely rational response, but we need to understand that there is a background to it. So governments have to be far more proactive in partnering with local social groups, civil society organizations, women's groups, panchayats, all different types of social groups, bring them on board and in a collaborative way. That is how trust can be built. That's what we have been strongly proposing in Maharashtra. And in Maharashtra, wherever this kind of interaction is going on, like in Pune district, in certain rural areas, where we have joint committees, coordination committees, there it works. I mean, people need, scientific, rational information, but there has to be a proper vehicle for it. And the government itself is so preoccupied with firefighting, they don't have time for this communication activity, maybe, but they at least have to pay some attention to it and partner with civil society groups to do this. That is the way forward.
So if you can help us understand what's the difference that you're seeing where there is effective communication, like you said, that there are committees as well in certain parts of the state. Do you believe that is being done enough, not just in Maharashtra, but in other states as well? And there are lots of reports which talk about how local authorities are trying to, get villagers to understand that this is not harmful. That door-to-door vaccination, awareness campaign is something that they have started to take up. Is that happening on ground?
So I will say that the situation in Maharashtra is slightly better than some of the northern states, in the sense that some efforts are being made. I mean, for example, in Amravati district, in the area called Melghat, which is one of the most remote tribal areas, there in an area called Chinchkheda village, the local project officer, she actually made a video in the local Korku language. You know, people don't speak Marathi there. They don't speak Hindi also. They have their own tribal language. So she made this kind of video. The video was shown in each and every village, and there is 100% vaccination has been achieved. You know, so I mean, people need to be reached out to in a sensitive and appropriate way in a language which they can understand. That is the way to go. And to the extent that in Maharashtra, at least now, people are being assisted for their registration on this app by the health workers actually going to the peer sub-center level and registering people and then giving them the vaccination on the spot, reducing the waiting times. That is positive. But the kind of partnership which I have mentioned, that is still just in a very patchy way. Actually, the government needs to generalize this across the state. Just yesterday, I was in a major official meeting where I gave this proposal to the Chief Secretary and Health Secretary of Maharashtra. You should partner with all civil society organizations across the state. This is a need of the hour. Public health cannot be produced by the government alone. It cannot be produced by people alone. It has to be co-produced. This is a core principle of public health. You have to co-produce health. And that means your state and society have to work together.
So we've spoken about lack of access. We've spoken about the fact that there needs to be effective communication, that there needs to be proactive, sort of campaigns from governments as well and local authorities as well. What are the challenges that health workers face otherwise, apart from these things, in rural areas?
Yeah. See, we have to understand these are all deep-rooted problems. The problems with our public health system are long-standing and deep-rooted. They have not appeared overnight during the COVID epidemic. They have been surfaced and they have been exacerbated and they have been highlighted in the COVID epidemic. We have a grossly underfunded public health system. We've spent just 1.1% of our GDP on public health. Maharashtra spends less than 0.5% of its state domestic product on public health services. This is grossly inefficient. It should be at least 3 to 5%. So, in this situation, frontline public health workers are under-supported. There's understaffing. A lot of work has been given to ASHAs, but they are not being paid on time. They are not being remunerated adequately. Now the ASHAs have declared they are going on strike in Maharashtra on 15th of June. So if the support to frontline public health workers is not adequate, then they will also not be able to perform their duties, and they're doing a very difficult job. So you've actually outsourced the most difficult job to the most underpaid person. I mean, communication with people on the front line, convincing them to take the vaccine, convincing them to get tested, convincing them to go for treatment if they are positive, etc., etc. These are very complex tasks. So at least let us do justice to our frontline health workers and support them properly, pay them on time and in adequate amount, and also give them other kinds of information and tools and protective equipment and so on. Actually, that should be a very high priority. That is what some other countries have been doing. They have really, so सिर्फ थाली बजाने से और ताली पीटने से नहीं होगा ना. We need action on the ground. We need to support our frontline healthcare workers much more effectively. That's part of the solution.
This compared to everything that's happening right now, the spike in cases of black fungus, we're talking about a third wave by the end of this year, and there is massive vaccine shortage across the country. Just yesterday, we heard Prakash Javadekar, for instance, say that there will be vaccines and India will vaccinate everybody by December end. With how things are going right now and with the challenges in rural areas, do you believe that's possible at all?
See, you asked a big question, huh? And I mean, probably towards the end of the interview. So to discuss this properly, one needs to see what exactly has happened, especially since January, on the entire front of vaccine procurement and distribution. What we have seen is actually a huge policy failure. Pardon me for using strong words. In January, in early January, on January 1st, the Serum Institute of India had declared that they have 5 crore vaccine doses available. Actually, other countries, if you see, from end 2020 onwards, governments had started placing orders with vaccine suppliers. They had started paying vaccine suppliers in advance because they knew they were going to need the vaccine in 2021. Our government did nothing until early January, out of those 5 crore vaccine doses which are available, finally the government towards end of January placed an order for just 1.2 crore doses in a country of 130 crore plus people. Actually, the government should have stepped in and given much stronger support to Serum Institute and also to the Covaxin producers and said, basically step up your production and also engage more public sector units, other pharma units, give them compulsory licensing if required, and say step up across the board. You have a budget of 35,000 crores allocated for COVID. So, vaccinating everybody above 18 will cost something like 32,000 crores for the vaccine itself, roughly of that order. So the funds are available, but gross mismanagement. It was these orders were not placed in time. Then when vaccine shortages, so our top leaders were busy in campaigning in elections and arranging Kumbh Melas and organizing super spreader events. So then when in March and April, the crisis started erupting and it became clear that there are gross vaccine shortages, then states have been asked to procure vaccine on their own. This is ridiculous. In this country, for the last 70 years, all vaccines are procured by the central government. All vaccines. I mean, which are given through the public system. And all public system vaccination is coordinated by the central government. The procurement is done by the central government. It's provided to the states and states administer the vaccination. This is the way, obviously, it should have been done in the case of COVID. And this confusion which has been created, opening up to the private sector, allowing states to float global tenders. Now, Mumbai Municipal Corporation is floating its own tender. This is ridiculous. This is not the way things are done. There are huge monopolies, and the way to counter monopolies is to have monopsonies, a single purchaser, which has to be the central government. It steps in and says, okay, X vaccine company, we need so many doses, give us at a reasonable price, and we'll purchase it and supply it across the country. So this is very obvious. And why has this, a very standard and obvious procedure been, thrown by the wayside, and something much more confusing, fragmented, and discoordinated is being done? It's a big, big question mark. The people of this country should ask why the vaccine policy of the central government is in such a huge mess today, which is leading to these vaccine shortages. So when Mr. Prakash Javadekar says that, we'll have, we had heard the Prime Minister say in January, India is exporting vaccines across the world. We have enough vaccines for everybody. These statements actually have no content and no value. And you know very well what we have been seeing from vaccine manufacturers. Some of them are saying we'll supply it in 2022. Some of them are saying, okay, we might be able to supply it in 2021, but we need, a much more, clear orders from the central government. They're refusing to deal with state governments, which is quite natural. So the state government has to completely revamp its vaccine policy, accept the failure of this fragmented and discoordinated vaccine policy, and adopt a centralized, highly, a well-coordinated vaccination policy. Then only such statements will make any meaning. Otherwise, they are not even worth the paper they are printed on.
So, Dr. Shukla, in a nutshell, what you've said is that this is a wake-up call for public healthcare system in India, because like you were pointing out, and I'd like to read this out, this is from the Mint. It says that in 2020-21, India spent 1.8% of its GDP on healthcare. So you're saying that we're not spending enough and we have to increase our spending, because a couple of problems that you pointed out. One, the big problem is that there is vaccine hesitancy, and that comes because of trust deficit, that people don't trust government healthcare system enough because it's in a complete mess at this point. And there is also lack of access, especially with COVID. And there is a massive gap between rural and urban areas. That's something that we need to look into, and that local authorities must ensure that there is effective communication, because that's the only thing that can sort of ease this problem, at least in rural areas. So we're going to continue to track this over the next couple of months as well. Dr. Shukla, thank you so much for joining us. But most importantly, for viewers who are watching right now, do tell us what you think of the rural report. Tell us what we should be picking up. Do give us feedback if you have any, and we'll make sure that we address this on the rural report. Thank you so much for watching.